our Chicago Commons segment, we are talking about something that is deeply connected to healthy aging, but often overlooked: socialization and connection. Joining us once again is Terence Santos de la Rosa Sims, Vice President of Senior Services at Chicago Commons. Terence, welcome back to Senior Talk.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
All right. So, here's the thing. When people think about aging, and not just aging, but aging well, usually they focus on medication, doctor visits, or physical health. But social connection seems to be just as important. How does staying socially connected change the way seniors experience aging, purpose, and overall happiness?
Human beings are not designed to age in isolation. As people grow older, social connections become more than companionship. It becomes affirmation that there's life, that their life still matters to others. A conversation, a shared meal, or simply being remembered can restore dignity and purpose in ways medicine. Socially connected tend to see aging not as a slow disappearance from society, but as a continued participation in it. Relationships remind them that they are still needed for their wisdom, humor, perspective, and love. Happiness in later life is often less about achievement and more about feeling seen, valued, and emotionally connected.
You said something about, wait a minute, all I think about is how my dad tells these jokes that he's told since I was a kid. And for some reason, he gets more tickled when I show that he's being funny. I'm really not understanding how he could even imagine that what he's saying is actually humorous. Can staying socially active actually help reduce depression and maybe even cognitive decline?
When you think about friendships and community and being involved with others, I think it can. It definitely does. Reduce depression, emotional distress. Friendships later in life become deeply meaningful because they are rooted less in ambition and more in understanding. Community gives seniors a place where their experience still have relevance and where their presence still contributes to something larger than themselves. Emotional health is strengthened when older adults feel they belong somewhere and have people who genuinely notice their absence. Community involvement combats one of aging's greatest fears, that fear of becoming invisible. When seniors are invited to participate or mentor or volunteer or simply share their stories, they maintain a sense of identity and emotional resilience that protects both the mind and the spirit, hence reducing depression, loneliness, and mental anxiety.
One thing I love is seeing seniors truly enjoying themselves. And just going on outings and even competing during bingo is something that we visualize, but I've never really witnessed. If you think about it, what kinds of activities or programs tend to make the biggest difference when helping seniors stay socially engaged?
Here at Chicago Commons in our adult day service, I mentioned in previous segments that, there's this myth that adults, seniors who go to adult day services just sit around and color and watch TV. That couldn't be any further from the truth. At Chicago Commons in our ADS program, for example, our seniors are very active. They go out for manicures. They take a tour of the city of Chicago. They've been to the Field Museum, Museum of Science and Industry. They've been to theater shows like The Wiz and the Tina Turner Story. Actually, today they all went bowling. They go to the library. They go to Shedd Aquarium. They go to Music in the Park. We've had symphony opera groups come here to our location on 50th Street and perform. We've had themed parties. Yesterday, we had a barbecue for everyone. We have Spirit Week. We have costume, Mardi Gras, superhero days, barbecues and bag lunch trips. So there's a lot of activities that go on. You think about activities, people think about, board games and things like that. And that may be part of it, drawing, coloring, things of that nature. But they're outings. They get physical. They go out. We're really innovative and creative and try to keep them abreast of being as active as possible. And they actually do exercise as well. We have chair exercises that they do, mobility, things like that. So the list actually goes on and on. It's literally not exhaustive.
What role does friendship and community involvement play in maintaining emotional and mental health later in life?
It goes back to what I stated earlier. As seniors get older, and when I say older, I'm referring to like 80, 90, even 100 years old. A lot of the people that they grew up with, they came up with, that they know personally, and they're close and close proximity. Unfortunately, we all have to pass away at some point. And then we get to that point where our closest friends, they pass away, and we feel like we don't have that connection with people from our generation. But what we need to realize is that sometimes later in life, building new relationships and friendships that may not be as deep as friendships that you may have had with a friend that you've had 40, 50, 60, 70 years. However, new friendships with like minds can introduce you to new things, build new perspectives, and you're never too old to learn. I think that's a myth sometimes, that you age out of learning, or I'm too old to do this, or I'm too old to think about those things. But that's not necessarily true. You're as old as you feel, and if you're inspired and you're encouraged and you feel empowered to keep going and keep learning, these type of things won't impact you in a negative way, as it is a great opportunity to open up to new perspectives and new opportunities to explore communication and build new friendships in your community, even if that's with new neighbors, as a matter of fact.
No new friends. Why do many older adults still struggle with loneliness even when they have family around them? How's that possible?
Loneliness is often the pain of feeling emotionally disconnected rather than physically alone. Many seniors sit in rooms full of people yet feel unheard because the world around them seemingly moves faster than their ability to participate in it. They may hesitate to speak about grief, fear, aging, or loss because they do not want the burden. They don't want to burden their families. But over time, this silence can become emotional isolation. Communities must move beyond simply caring for seniors and begin intentionally living with them. True connection happens when older adults are included in conversations, decisions, traditions, and shared experiences, and not treated as observers of life, but as a continuing contributor of society.
Do you think generational gaps and loss of independence sometimes make seniors feel emotionally disconnected, even when their loved ones care deeply about them?
I think they can, but I think it depends on each individual and kind of where you are, right? I'm sure you've had these experiences where you know some older adults that are very vibrant, and they reminisce on back in the days when they used to party and dance and go out and do all these things. And although they may not be 30 anymore, they may be 70, 80, 90 years old, they still have that vibrant spirit within them. So I think a lot of times it depends on the person, what they've gone through, where they're currently at. Health issues can impact that psychologically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. But I think if you can kind of get a grasp on where you are in life and enjoy and accept, not just accept where you are, but embrace it and pivot and figure out what's the best way for me to move forward. Because none of us know when our time is going to come. But, it may sound cliche to say, hey, live this day as though it's your last. But guess what? One day you're going to be right. So when that day comes, you want to be ready if you can be. And if not, live it like it is your last. Because, again, like I said, it will be. And so I think it depends on the individual.
All right. So I think communities sometimes underestimate how much small things matter, like transportation, independence, phone calls, outings, opportunities to gather. What can communities and family do differently to help seniors feel more connected and less isolated?
Just be involved. See, sometimes we assume our loved ones, because of their age, there's only certain things that they can do. When you think about seniors, you think about, what about church activities? What about bingo night? What about, some things that are going on at the local YMCA? And all those things are good. All of those things are advantageous to one's ability to participate and connect and not feel lonely. However, asking the individual, what do they like to do? What would they like to see themselves doing? How can we not just include you in things? How can we be included in the things that you want to do that make sense for where you are? I think that's pivotal. We talk about independence. We talk about forward thinking, and thought-provoking ideas that, these seniors have a lot. They may slow down a little bit, but that doesn't mean that they, out the race. They just, they have their own ideas about, how things should be and what they would like it to look like. And, every now and then, like we all can get, just because you feel lonely doesn't mean that you're necessarily alone. And because you're alone, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily lonely. I just think gathering, engaging seniors in their own ideas of what is, fulfilling for them, I think is very critical to the success of, how they want to live and continue to live a fulfilled life while we're here on this planet.
How can seniors continue building meaningful relationships and discovering new passions after retirement or major life changes?
Retirement, loss, or major life transitions can feel like endings, but they can also become invitations to rediscover identity beyond career titles or responsibilities. Many seniors spend decades giving to others and only later ask themselves what truly brings them joy. Meaningful relationships often grow when people allow themselves to remain curious, vulnerable, and open.
All right, guys. I'm not sure if that cut out in just all of a sudden there, but you just heard from Terence Terence De La Rosa Sims from Chicago Commons, and what we have shared, just giving you some more insight on what can be done when it comes to senior living. It's retirement, faith groups, all of those things are so important to have in your circle so that you can keep your mind sharp. But